Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first edition of CLS Live. This is a new live stream series presented by the publishers of Contact Lens Spectrum. I have the privilege of being your host, Jason Jedlicka, and it's a pleasure to have you join me for this initial episode. Each program, I'll have the chance to chat with a leader in the world of contact lenses, finding out what's going on in the contact lens industry from their perspective and with their insights. We will talk about new and future products, the latest research, worldwide trends in prescribing, and even bring you updates from the floor of contact lens conferences. So we're excited to kick this off and glad you're here with us today for this initial episode. Today, for our first episode, with that background, it is an honor for me to introduce to you our guest for today. Our guest today is Jason Nichols. Dr. Nichols has both an OD and PhD from Ohio State University, is a widely recognized contact lens researcher, a faculty member of the University of Alabama, Birmingham, and the editor-in-chief of Contact Lens Spectrum. So with that, Jason, I want to welcome you to this very first episode of CLS Live.
Thank you, Jason. It's really an honor to be here this morning, and I indeed want to thank you for carrying the torch for us in this important social media venue and carrying forward the story of contact lens spectrum and our related meetings and the like. So it's an honor to be here.
Yeah, it's my privilege. And of course, my life is so built around contact lenses. I can recall way back when, as a contact lens resident, having my very first publication in Spectrum. So it's been part of my life since my very formative years in optometry. So let's talk about you, not me, because you're the guest today, not me. Tell me a little bit about your optometric career and how it became focused around contact lenses. Obviously, you've got both the OD, PhD, and have done a lot of research. And how did you come to this point in having contact lenses be such a focal point of what you do?
Yeah, great question. You know, contact lenses has really been a passion of mine for forever. I mean, since I entered optometry school, however many years ago that was. And really in optometry school or entering optometry school, I thought, like most others, that, you know, I was going to be heading out to practice. And early on, I sort of had some interactions with some folks, and I know it's rather cliche, but it's really all about mentors for me. And I got involved in some research opportunities via some mentors. And it really sort of made me think about contact lenses and the direction of my career. And in particular, early on, I got involved in the collaborative longitudinal evaluation of keratoconus, or the CLS study. And that sort of led me down a path of interacting with a few really giants in the field. I'll say Dick Hill. I worked in his lab for a while in optometry school. Joe Barr, obviously an emeritus editor of Contact Lens Spectrum, really was a clinical contact lens mentor for me. In fact, I did residency at Ohio State, and Joe was my mentor along these lines. Carla Zanuck was a mentor of mine and really mentored me in clinical research. And in optometry school, I got involved in another research project with Mark Bullimore, where we published a paper on overnight orthokeratology around 2000. It was sort of a senior research project that we got involved in. And I think it's one of the most recognized papers in orthokeratology today. And so you can kind of see how the sort of surrounding I had at Ohio State with mentors and immersion into clinical contact lenses, the residency, clinical research, really formed and shaped my career path and really got me passionate about being involved in contact lenses.
Yeah, those are some serious names there in the contact lens world. And it's so true, because I can think back to being at the same stage, and we must have come through our programs at a similar time, because I remember working as a resident on the CLEX study too at PCO, where I was a student, and I had no interest in contact lenses, unlike you, but those mentors that shape you along the way, the people you had interactions with, that you click with, it is such a significant part of how you get to where you are, and something for the students and residents of today to keep in mind, that finding those mentors to help shape your career is pretty significant. So you mentioned Joe being the emeritus editor in chief of Spectrum, and I'm assuming that that was part of how you got involved with Spectrum. But tell us a little bit more about how your involvement with contact lens Spectrum started and it evolved to where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Joe Barr was instrumental in this and in my career. And today actually this year we're celebrating the 35th anniversary of contact lens Spectrum, which is really remarkable. And Joe led Spectrum for many years. Neil Bailey was the founding editor. Carla Mack is an emeritus editor as well. And so lots of giants in the field. As you did, I got involved early on, probably in post-OD in my graduate training with Spectrum writing. And I've always been mindful that it's important to write both, peer-reviewed papers, but also in the press that impacts practitioners like Spectrum, so-called trades. But it's really important to recognize our place in the market. I think our print subscription is something like 35,000 practitioners. But if you think about a global basis, we probably have a readership of up to 100,000 people. So I got involved early on in writing columns and then feature articles, and really it evolved into sort of an opportunity around, I think, 2008 to become the editor-in-chief of Contact Lens Spectrum. It's been a whirlwind since. We've grown our newsletters and we've grown our meetings from Global Specialty Lens Symposium to now the Global Myopia Symposium. And it's just been a fantastic ride. And I really, in addition to my mentors, I thank the field of contact lenses for allowing me this opportunity to it's just been a tremendous ride. So.
Yeah, it's a great world we live in to be associated with the contact lens industry, the companies, and just all of the other practitioners that we get to do this life with. And I will say too, as far as Spectrum goes, I can't tell you how many times I reference articles in the archives as I'm doing research for lectures I'm writing. I want to read up, and I'm pulling up the archives constantly, rereading articles from the last 5 or 10 years to give me a new perspective. So it gets used a lot. Tell us now, as editor-in-chief of Spectrum, I mean, obviously you get to see things happening and within the industry that most of us can't imagine. Give us some insight into what you get to see about the industry that most of us don't.
Yeah, so Jason, I think in terms of looking back and in terms of the history of contact lenses and the anniversaries I mentioned, really Contact Lens Spectrum has told the story of contact lenses as we've been in existence. And so our archives and our publications through the years really, it's sort of a living history of contact lenses, and we've really embraced that through the years. In terms of seeing the industry, I think really it's not the good, the bad, and the ugly, but it's the good and the great and the excellent that I've seen in the field. It's really been exciting to see different angles of the contact lens industry from this vantage point. I think two things stand out to me as it relates to the insights. One is sort of the business of contact lenses, and when I say that, I mean it from the standpoint of practitioners in the business, but also the business and the industry of contact lenses, and sort of all the behind the scenes efforts that are undertaken in manufacturing and developing medical devices. It's truly remarkable, and I think as oftentimes we forget that how much goes into developing new designs, new materials, new instrumentation that really today allows us to almost do precision fitting of contact lenses, individualized to the patient. And really we owe it all to the industry for this, and we always need to keep that mindful. Along those lines, in terms of the business and trends and seeing the inside sort of workings of the industry, I think I really want to highlight the R&D initiatives that we see. Many of us are involved in clinical practice, clinical trials of lenses, but there's a whole lot that comes before we get those lenses into clinical trials and into our patients. And for every lens that we see come to a trial, there's probably 50 iterations or more of it that have been worked on in industry that we have no idea about. And so I'm really, really grateful to be a part of this and see those things and really see contact lenses from their beginning to them reaching the clinic and our patients. And I've been very fortunate there.
Yeah, seeing all the behind the scenes is great. It's funny because, like you said, the what's the new things that come out all the time, and I think back to 20 years ago where we were at with prescribing contact lenses, working in a specialty practice, and then 5 years later, and then 10 years, and 15, and here we are now, and we're changing lives, and then we're finding new ways to change lives again in unique ways. And I think about the way sclerals have changed things. I think about, like you mentioned, the way technology is evolving and allowing us to be more precise. And this is so amazing. And with software and how we're making lenses, and now with aberration correction, I mean, it's a whole new world of changing lives. And we're just fortunate to be in part of the optometric world where we get to do that daily, almost, it seems. So it's a very rewarding life, and so Spectrum really does bring what's new and what's current to all of us in practice, and I appreciate that. What about the struggles? I can remember going way back to my first years in practice, which would be the late 90s. And it was all about laser vision correction. It was going to just ravage optometry and render contact lenses obsolete. And then fast forward now, and we're talking about all these other disruptors that are trying to sell products alternatively. And what are the real challenges to us as practitioners? Where do you see future struggles and areas that we can overcome, and how we can overcome them in the near future?
Yeah, that's a interesting blast from the past, Jason. And thinking about when you and I probably graduated, it's similar. We had the refractive surgery, and then silicone hydrogels were sort of entering the scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just the greatest thing. We were so excited about silicone hydrogels and the like. And at the time, I think that the idea of specialty lenses and where we are today, or sort of advanced technologies otherwise, such as perhaps even smart contact lenses, just way off in the future. But here we are today, and look at the advanced designs we have, specialty lenses. And the fact of the matter is, a smart lens is not that far off, and lots of groups are working around that around the world today, as you know. And it's remarkable to look back and think how excited we were about silicone hydrogels and how much we learned about contact lenses from them, to the sort of modern era of really specialty lenses and their key role in practice and in optometry and maintaining contact lenses as medical devices and regulated and prescribed as such as they should be. I say that because I think one of the challenges we look at is in the industry is sort of the threats that you mentioned, commoditization and alternative distribution channels, right? And those are issues that we're facing in terms of how lenses are prescribed in the United States that we need to be mindful of. Coming back, though, we've got specialty lenses, and as of today and right now, you're not gonna get those prescribed out of vending machines as you see sometimes soft lenses in other parts of the world. And they really are the key, the bread and butter, the core of contact lens practice. And it's exciting to see the revolution and revitalization of lenses like scleral lenses today, given the designs that we have, the materials that we have, advanced hybrids, advanced orthokeratology designs, and the like. It's just mind-blowing. I think that's really key. In the short and the long term is our continued embracement of specialty lenses as a core of contact lens practice. Mm-hmm. The other issues still sort of plague us, end of day discomfort along these lines, although we've made strides there. Multifocals is just a huge opportunity. And of course, along the lines of multifocals for presbyopia, we think about myopia management. Look at where we've come in just the last 2 years. We've got the FDA and other worldwide regulatory agencies weighing in on not only contact lenses, but perhaps spectacle lenses, pharmaceutical treatment like atropine. And so the opportunities for us are just huge, short and long term. So, yeah.
Yeah, one thing that you just mentioned that pops to mind, and we talk about orthokeratology and the way it's growing now in the myopia management aspect of practice, side by side with soft multifocals. And one of the things that I don't think we think much about is orthokeratology in the presbyopic population. Maybe, I mean, we have an opportunity there again to create optics which simulate multifocal optics and soft lenses. So maybe we have some areas that we haven't even tapped yet that could be big practice areas of growth for the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it takes great minds like yours to kind of push us ahead. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I think that the challenges that lie for us too are overcome with again the innovation, the specialty, and just providing great care to our patients. I mean, they trust us to provide the best possible care, and I think when we build that relationship, we can work around some of these the challenges that we do face. So um, one of the things that Spectrum also gives us is kind of the international perspective between having international writers and authors, and also the prescribing trends that happen around the world, not just in the U.S. And so, touch on that a little bit, if you don't mind, the role of the international opinion and writers and how that contributes to Spectrum, and how we maybe in the U.S. Gain from having that international perspective.
Oh yeah, the international perspective, both for me as an individual, but also for our publication and our global meetings, is key. A good friend, Phil Morgan, once told me, and I've sort of adopted his slogan: "I've been around the world on a contact lens." Who would have known that? I mean, I've lectured in Asia, Europe, South America, throughout North America on contact lenses. And it's truly, truly remarkable. And I'm so thankful for that opportunity as an individual. Really, the international perspective is key. And sometimes we can become sort of inward focused and think about the US and North America, but there's so much happening, particularly I'll give a great example in Asia right now with myopia control. They're leading the world in terms of what's happening, and we need to learn from what they're doing. And personally, I think early on in my editorship, I was fortunate to lecture in. I was lecturing in Moscow actually, and the organizers had asked me to lecture on daily disposables. And I was enthusiastic and young at the time, and came in and lectured and daily disposables and all the great benefits. And I remember an individual standing up and saying, in essence to me, "How dare you come into our market where we prescribe more daily disposables than the US and tell us about the benefits?" And it struck me as in, we really need to sort of be mindful of what's happening in the world. The individual was right. At the time, prescribing rates for daily disposables in Russia were greater than in the US. And that really, really hit me. And from that time forward, to really be mindful of what's happening out there in the world. It's not just about the US and North America. We've got to really embrace what's happening globally.
I completely agree. I think some of the great people I've met in the international contact lens prescribing world leave quite a lasting impact. There's a different perspective. They have different experiences, and I think learning from that is really important. And again, I appreciate how Spectrum brings that international flavor to each issue. So, well, with that, we're going to pull this very first episode of CLS Live to a close. I want to thank you, Dr. Nichols, for your perspectives, your insight into the world of contact lenses. I appreciate the value that Spectrum brings to me as a practitioner, and your work as editor in chief of Spectrum. So keep up the good work and keep bringing us great clinical-based publications that we can use to help learn and grow in our experience as practitioners. So want to also make a plug and say, again, we're going to do future episodes. We're going to have episodes in the future, I'm sure, on myopia management as we have meetings coming up. GSLS in January, we'll probably have some specialty lens guests on our show. So please do join us again. Be watching your inbox for more information about future episodes of CLS Live and our guests, and find out what's new and exciting across the spectrum of contact lenses. Have a great day, everyone.